Wow. I think she said it all. There's nothing left to say. She's incredible. And Asia, thank you so much for that introduction. Your story is what's so special about Detroit. Excuse me if I put my sunglasses on. I think it's my Irish blood makes me photosensitive. Actually, I'm copying my mother, who always is photographed with her sunglasses on. And thank you to everyone on stage who's joining me today. This marks the 115th anniversary of the Ford Motor Company. We have a lot of employees here, and I'm proud to have worked alongside so many of you for almost 40 years. Still, I've rarely been as excited for an announcement as I am today. And before I begin, I'd like to recognize some of the people here who have helped make this moment possible, including Governor Snyder, Mayor Duggan, and County Executive Evans, as well as representatives from the City of Detroit, Wayne County, DEGC, and MEDC. Thank you all very much for everything you've done. I'd like to give a couple of special shout outs. First to Tom Buell, who, without his vision for Corktown, his early foray down here, he's the one who talked us into the factory, and we're all so glad he did. It was amazing. And then he worked on the deal to get us down. So Tom, thank you so much for everything you did for us. Thank you. And a couple of my colleagues at Ford, Dave Dubensky and Mary Culler, both of whom were sort of the voice of sanity as I got very excited about this and kept trying to give me reality checks as we went along. But they both couldn't have been more visionary and really wanted this to happen. So thank you to both of you. Matt Maroon. Matt was great to deal with. We got this deal done pretty quickly. He really wanted this to happen, and so Matt, thank you for your leadership in making this happen. And finally, to the Ford family, who are all sitting down here in the front row, they collectively and also individually have done so much for this region, this city, and so thank you to all of you. So this is the Michigan Central Station. It's a building that in many ways tells the story of our city over the past century. In 1913, when the first train pulled into the station, workers at Ford were building 200,000 cars a year. But by the end of that decade, 200 trains a day were chugging into this station, and Ford was turning out 1 million cars each year. Detroit had become the 4th largest city in America, and possibility was everywhere. And for 76 years, the train station was our Ellis Island, the place where dreamers in search of new jobs and new opportunities first set foot in Detroit. This was the port where we shipped our troops off to war and then welcomed them home. And I remember the first time I walked through this as a little boy, I'd never seen anything so big or so majestic. And I didn't think anything like it could exist anywhere else. It was something that only Detroit could do and make a statement like this. And for decades, this station was the place where you knew you'd arrived. But once the last train pulled out, it became a place where hope left. As parts of Detroit hollowed out, so did this station. It became a symbol of the city's hard times, a monument to its struggles. It's time for that to change. It's time to remake this station. It's time to remake this station into a place of possibility again. Today, the Michigan Central Station has a new owner, Ford Motor Company. And what I want people to know is this isn't just a symbolic gesture. We have big plans for this station and for Corktown. And I want to explain what those plans will mean in a minute for the future of Ford, future of Detroit, and the future of our industry. People tend to measure a city in different ways: by its population, by its footprint, by the size of its economy. But that's not what really matters. What really matters is the size of its heart, the strength of its people, the scope of their dreams, and that's how you measure a city. Detroit has always been defined by its people. We're resilient and tough. And at Ford, we've always been proud of that. This isn't just where we do business, it's our home. And together, Ford and Detroit did a lot to build this country. Our Highland Park plant was where my great-grandfather's assembly plant changed the economy forever. And it's also where he did something more than just make it possible for workers to build more cars. It's where he made it possible for workers to join the middle class. A living wage, a 40-hour work week, profit sharing, hiring workers with disabilities. These advances helped workers buy the cars they made, afford a home, send their kids to college, and then to retire. And at Willow Run, Ford employees built the planes and tanks that won the war, setting the stage for decades of American prosperity. And at the Rouge, which will celebrate its 100th anniversary soon, generations of workers, grandparents, parents, sons, daughters, have been through all the good times and the bad, but they've built the best cars and trucks in the world. And in many ways, we came together, Ford and Detroit. At times, we stumbled together too. But whenever anybody writes us off, we come together, get to work, and we write a new chapter. When the Lions returned downtown, I was told by a prominent businessman that our fans would never follow. But thanks to the best fans in the world, Ford Field has become an anchor of Detroit's comeback. When the Rouge fell into disrepair, some senior executives said that we should write it off and go build a new plant somewhere else. But we rolled up our sleeves and we built it better than ever. We turned the most imitated plant in the world into one of the most sustainable. And when the economic crisis hit, and 1 in 4 people around here were out of work, we made tough sacrifices. We mortgaged everything to keep Ford out of bankruptcy. And we came back even better with new plants, new shifts, new models, and a new commitment to our future. These weren't half measures. They were full swings. And excuse me, and when it looked at times like we might lose everything, we looked out for each other. We bet on each other. That's what we do. And today, I'm more hopeful about this city than I've been in a long time. Over the past decade in particular, we've all pulled together to make this city work. Buses started running again. Streets started lighting up again. Young people started moving downtown. And many of you, like the people behind me, started businesses in neighborhoods that hadn't known any for a long time. Which brings me back to what we're doing here today. This station is a symbol, but Ford's investment in Corktown is anything but symbolic. We're making a big bet on our future. What Highland Park, Willow Run, and the Rouge were to the American economy in the 20th century, we hope Corktown will be to the American economy in the 21st century. And I know that's a big claim, but this industry is going through some big changes. And I think we all recognize that there was a time when our industry didn't keep up and we weren't thinking about the future in a responsible, sustainable way. And just as Detroit has had to reimagine what it's going to be, we have to do the same. Because everything's changing. From how we build our cars, to what they run on, to the way we hail them, or even to drive them at all. You can look at that kind of change as unsettling, or you can see it as exciting. And that's when we're at our best, when we make change work for us, when we shape it. So the challenge is, how do we reinvent our business model for this new era? Well, at Ford, we design, build, and sell the best cars and trucks in the world. But is that all we should do? My great-grandfather believed that the Ford Motor Company had two missions: to make cars affordable so that everybody had the opportunity to own one, and to make people's lives better. Well, today there are more than 1 billion cars on the road around the world. So you could say that we've been actually meeting that first mission. But are we still meeting the second? Are we actually making people's lives better? I've always believed that mobility makes freedom and progress possible. It allows us to live and work wherever we want. Think about it. Before the Model T, most people never traveled more than 25 miles from where they were born. But today, mobility is getting harder to come by, and it's simple math. About 7.5 billion people live on the planet today. 30 years from now, we'll have almost 10 billion. Most of those people will live in cities. And our current transportation systems are already straining enough as it is. The average American already wastes a few days each year stuck in gridlock. And that's nothing compared to some of the countries that are growing the fastest. So now imagine doubling or even quadrupling the number of cars on the road over the next 30 years. And while the environment has always been a passion of mine, and making cars with fewer emissions is a challenge that we've been working on for some time, the reality is this: 4 billion clean cars on the road are still 4 billion cars. And a clean traffic jam is still a traffic jam. My great-grandfather once said, if I'd asked my customers what they'd wanted, they would have said a faster horse. And for a long time, the answer to this problem has been more lanes or more roads. But that's not really going to solve the problem. 100 years after Henry Ford's assembly line revolutionized the industry, we're reimagining mobility. We believe we can be a leader in rethinking cities so that even as millions more people start to call cities home, we can make the air cleaner and the streets less congested. And that means smart cars, but also smart roads, smart parking, smart public transit, and ways for all of them to talk to one another. Imagine new ways of making it easier for people who don't own cars to get to their jobs, and easier for the poor and the elderly to get the food and health care that they need to live better, longer, and more independent lives. The possibilities are endless. And in a few minutes, Jim Hackett will outline what we're working on in greater detail. But why Ford? What could a company that's been around 150 years offer in terms of entirely new ways of thinking? Well, this company was born of disruption. And we've all looked at innovation in a different way. And that's what we're doing again now. We've already moved 220 people from our self-driving and electric vehicle teams into the factory here in Corktown. And eventually, we'll bring all our mobility teams to this neighborhood. And they'll work to make people's lives better. And after all, that should be the point of technology, to make people's lives better. And in a time when technology can be unsettling for a lot of reasons, we want to be the world's most trusted company working on these solutions. Look, you've known us for 115 years. We're the people who build the vehicles that generations of Americans have let their kids drive. And we know that in this new era, we can't do this alone. Consider the early days of the auto industry. There were more than 1,800 car companies in America. It was a time of incredible ingenuity and entrepreneurship. And that's the kind of innovation that's happening in this area right now. It's an incredibly exciting time. But the truth is, we don't precisely know what the future will look like. Nobody does. And that's okay. It's actually really exciting. What we do know is that we're going to create that future here in Corktown and also at our newly designed Dearborn campus. And we want help from everybody. We want the best startups, the smartest talent, the kind of thinkers, engineers, and problem solvers who see things differently to come and partner with us here in Detroit. We've already been working and investing in new kinds of businesses. committed to making this vision a reality, from radar and mapping technologies to artificial intelligence platforms. And one of the greatest things about Detroit right now is its vibrant, fun startup culture. And we invite you and other entrepreneurs to help us build a future. And we want the community actively involved in making our Corktown campus the next great anchor for Detroit's comeback. We want this station a place that many people suggested should be torn down, to be a beacon of development, opportunity, and possibility all over again. A destination for people to come visit from all around the world. We plan to renovate the Grand Hall and make it majestic again. And we want local shops and local restaurants alongside the inventors and dreamers like Asia and all the young people here on this stage mapping out this future with us. We're planning a modern workspace in the tower above, and we plan to restore it all in an environmentally friendly way. And above all, we want this to be a public gathering spot for the people of Detroit to come, have fun, and enjoy it. We want your help to make this vision a reality, a signal to the world that Detroit is open for business for good. I'll just close by saying that Corktown matters to me and our family. Some of you might know that Henry Ford was the son of an immigrant. His father, William Ford, came over from Cork during Ireland's potato famine. And this part of town was coined Corktown for all the immigrants like him who came here with little more than hope. This was a place where if you worked at it, you could make something of yourself and hope that you could make something better for your kids. And that this was a place where you could imagine what's possible. That's what we all want to do all over again, right here in Corktown, to reimagine what's possible. So come back to the Michigan Central Station as often as you can. We're so excited to share our plans with you, and thank you all very much.